All right, welcome to the Krueger Show. Chase Sr.'s in the house. It's a Friday. We haven't gotten together for a while. Really fired up to see what he thinks of training camp. Guys, let's go. Off and running on the Krueger Show Friday. Hope everybody's having a great one. What do we got for time here? I got my new computer. It doesn't give me the time in the corner anymore. Got my phone off behind me. But nonetheless, welcome to the Krueger Show. If you're watching us live on YouTube, do us a favor, smash the like button, hit subscribe, make sure you hit the notification bell, make sure it's turned on so you never miss a show. And remember, when the live stream wraps, you can catch the full replay anywhere you get your podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever your favorite platform is. Just search the Krueger Show and you'll find us, but we got a lot to get to with Chase here. And Chase, the Niners, we entitled the stream Where the Niners Need to Get Better Before the Season Begins. Before we go in any direction, what did you think of yesterday's joint practice with the Broncos?
Look, what a good litmus test for this Niners offense. I mean, that Broncos defense last year under defensive coordinator Vance Joseph was really good. And they were great in regular statistical categories. And then if you look at some of the advanced numbers and the analytics, they were also very sound there. And so going into this preseason game on Saturday night with the starters not playing, teams have started to handle and approach these joint practices like the preseason games, because that's when the starters are going up against the starters. It can be a controlled environment. You're not tackling quarterbacks to the ground. The physicality isn't the same, but scheme versus scheme, players versus players, coaches versus coaches. This is a really great way to analyze where the Broncos are. Playoff team, ended that drought last year. Bo Nix, Sean Payton, that defense, and this Niners team, which is looking to bounce back. So no surprises really that the Niners started slow. And then in the move the ball periods, they started to get a little bit better. This is an offense that can be rhythmic at times. This is an offense that is introducing new parts, especially at the wide receiver position. Trent Williams not out there. And so you're trying to get a feel for what you're trying to do and accomplish offensively. And when you're going up against a really good defense, no surprises that the Niners maybe started a little bit slow. But some of the things that you like to see, Ricky Pearsall winning one-on-ones, Jordan Watkins winning one-on-ones, Christian McCaffrey looking good, Brock Purdy making mistakes, but also handling adversity, not letting his confidence crash, coming back at the end of practice to deliver some nice balls. And Purdy, team drill, 7-on-7s, 1-on-1s. You're seeing him make big boy, high-level, elite quarterback throws. And outside of that, to see Ricky Pearsall having success, huge for this entire organization and this offense going into 2025. They badly need him to stay healthy and live up to the billing of being a first-round pick with all of the whiffs that they've had with crucial selections in the NFL draft. And then a player like Jordan Watkins displaying the 4.3 speed, the ball tracking ability to beat the DB in a one-on-one, hand fighting, using some physicality with that 4.3 speed to win that matchup. You know, these are the types of developments that I really want to see from this offense. And these are the things that they're capable of doing, Larry. And I'm sure that, you know, you have some great analysis too from being there on the sideline.
Well, I mean, just it was an interesting practice from the standpoint of it started off with in the one-on-one period with the Niner D-line. And I watched the Niner D-line against the Denver O-line.
Yeah.
And
you're a trench guy, and I love that.
Yeah, well, I mean,
yeah.
I'm definitely a trench guy, but you had to choose. Like, you had to choose. I could have gone and watched the Niner O-line against Denver's D-line, but I watched the Niner D-line against Denver's O-line. And I wanted to see, how they would do. And I thought Alfred Collins had his best day yet. CJ West was really good, and Sebastian Valdez just continues to destroy people. He absolutely cooked this guy Powers, who's a starter for Denver on their line, and to the point where everybody was just kind of like, gasping, like, how did he beat this guy so severely, so completely? So I thought it started really well with the young Niner D line really holding their own against Quinn Miners and the Bronco, offensive line, which is a pretty, I don't know how good is Denver's O-line in your opinion?
One of the best in the NFL. I mean, last year they were fantastic. So across the board, they are very, very sound. Sean Payton emphasizes the O-line, and they're coached up very well.
So that was the first thing. So I'm feeling really good early on. Then we get to the team portion, and it just was, of the first 10 plays, like 9 of them were advantage Denver's defense.
Mhm.
Denver was getting lots of push. Now, granted, there was no Trent Williams in the 11 on 11s. They held him out. So you had Burford at left tackle, but the Niners get beat all along the line of scrimmage. Nick Bonito, DJ Jones, Myers Franklin, whatever Franklin Myers, whatever John Franklin Myers or Myers Franklin. I mean, these guys were all winning reps up front pretty consistently against the Niners offensive line. Purdy had no time to throw. The running backs were getting dumped in the backfield, tackled for losses. Purdy was getting sacked or would be getting sacked, and when he wasn't getting sacked, he was throwing into ridiculously tight windows. They were getting their hands on a number of footballs. There were very few. The first positive play was Purdy did a little bootleg, which he's completed this pass to George Kittle with ease against the Niners secondary, and he barely got it to him through a sea of hands. George had to dive and to make the catch. I mean, it took a Herculean effort by both Purdy and Kittle just to complete one pass on Denver's defense. Now, that was initial. That was the initial 10, 15 plays. Like, almost of the initial 15 plays, maybe there were 13 wins for the Broncos D against the Niners.
Blanked in the red zone too, right?
What's that?
Blanked in the red zone as well too, right? For the first period, the
right.
Niners were. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And then it started to loosen up. And then Purdy started to find Watkins, started to find Robinson, started to find Pearsall. Purdy threw a couple picks, but, like, you know what? I mean, people are like, how come you don't talk about the picks? I don't talk about the picks because it's really more about what's happening up front, and it's practice. So you're going to throw the ball. In the game, you wouldn't throw that. You would just take the sack and move on to the next down. In practice, you're going to give you're trying to practice. So it's not just about you, it's about the receiver, the DB, and all the other guys in the field. So you're going to throw that ball. So it doesn't, to me, it doesn't, the interceptions weren't like, hey, I lost track of defenders, or I'm inaccurate with the ball. It was that the defense was, you got to credit the D. They had a lot of pressure up front. They had tight coverage on the back end, and he threw the ball anyway. And a couple of them got tipped, and a couple of them got picked off. So I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm looking at it the wrong way, but I just don't. To me, it's almost like team interceptions when you see that kind of pressure in the quarterback's face and just see him kind of throw it to the spot.
Right.
So I didn't think Purdy looked great, but I didn't think Purdy looked terrible. He definitely had a lower completion percentage. But then I watched Mac Jones, and Mac Jones against the same D. Now, granted, it was the twos a lot of times. Really looked good. I mean, I don't know what he completed, but it was a high percentage. And he's playing, the one thing about Jones is that he's playing under control with, he's definitely playing with poise, but the word I would use, or the phrase, is on time. I mean, he's on time. The ball's coming out on time with accuracy. He knows how to read coverage, and it's coming out at the right place at the right time. So I asked Shanahan about it after practice, and he said, yeah, Mac's looking good. So I didn't expect Jones to look this good year one in an offense where Matt Ryan struggled at the beginning, and
right.
other guys struggle. And it's like Mac Jones is not struggling initially. What do you make of that?
It's a great sign for San Francisco. I mean, they got him at a really good price for the next 2 years, and he is definitely a better backup quarterback when he's playing well than Joshua Dobbs, and definitely Brandon Allen, who should have never, ever, ever started a game for the San Francisco 49ers last year. But look, I like this signing from the jump. I know a lot of fans take issue with Kyle Shanahan, but look, he's maximized Nick Mullins and CJ Beathard to a point where they played well for a little while. He did the same in maximizing Jimmy Garoppolo. Look at how those quarterbacks have looked with their other teams, especially Jimmy G with the Raiders. That's a Kyle Shanahan effect right there. He couldn't really develop Trey Lance. I thought he looked great last week in the Hall of Fame game against with the Los Angeles Chargers because he was very impressive. But look, Brock Purdy comes in, and Kyle Shanahan develops him to a point where, he's a top 10 highest paid quarterback in the NFL, And I think he is legit. I think for much of his starting tenure since he came in for Jimmy G in 2022, Purdy has played at a top 10 level. The efficiency numbers, the accuracy, the strengths that he has, the big games that he's won, I do believe wins are a quarterback stat. And so what Shanahan's done with Purdy has been fantastic. Sam Darnold credited being around Kyle Shanahan and Brock Purdy for why he was able to bounce back last year and nearly throw for 40 touchdowns. Sam Darnold, we're talking about, who never came close to that prior to coming to the Niners with the Panthers and with the New York Jets. So Kyle Shanahan has a track record of really developing, maximizing quarterbacks, putting them in a position to succeed. And if you can play within his scheme, if you can do the things that he likes you to do to run this offense efficiently, which is reading, diagnosing, quick decisions, get the ball out, be accurate to allow your weapons to pick up yards after the catch, combined with this running game, it is very quarterback friendly when you stay within the confines of Shanahan's system. Trey Lance didn't necessarily do that. That's why he struggled a little bit. He was also incredibly raw and never got enough opportunities. So chalk that one up as an L for both Lance and Kyle Shanahan as far as the development that we've seen under Kyle. But this is another example of Mac Jones coming in here, and he looks pretty damn good. Like, I think that he could be a starter on a few teams across the NFL. His offensive situations have not been ideal at all from a foundational scheme, player personnel, offensive play calling standpoint. His first two stops with New England and Jacksonville, but you're seeing the quarterback in Mac Jones that we saw at Alabama, when I know that he was surrounded by high-level NFL guys, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, offensive linemen, who all went to the NFL for that team that won the Natty. But Mac Jones that year threw for nearly 40 touchdowns, and he had, I think, 3 to 7 interceptions that year. He was excellent. And what did he do? Get the ball out on time, accurately, be decisive, throw with touch timing and anticipation, run the offense. And Kyle Shanahan's bringing that out of him right now. And good for Mac, because this is a guy who's been through a lot so far in his NFL career.
You know, I really thought Mac Jones was one of their better acquisitions in the offseason.
Me too.
Because,
value too.
Yeah, the value, but also the motivation for Purdy and the ability. I mean, I really believe after watching Jones this camp that the 49ers could win games with Purdy and Jones.
Yeah.
Like I thought Darnold looked better, looked really good with the Niners and better than he'd ever looked before.
For sure.
But I still wasn't like of the belief, the Niners can win games with Brock or Darnold.
Right. You were like, is the interception coming at some point? Because it's a little shaky.
Right. And I kind of felt like, I mean, I don't know how you feel, but I feel like Darnold kind of showed what he was in the playoffs. And I think that is Darnold. And I think, unfortunately, I think Seattle's going to have a rough year because of it. And I think Milroe is going to wind up replacing Darnold. So I'm not a believer in Darnold. But Mac Jones, I think the 49ers could win games with Mac Jones. I really do. I think he looks pretty good out there. Offensively, since we're talking about concerns, they did get whipped up front by the Denver defensive line. Now, some people would say, well, what do you expect? Denver's one of the better defenses, and this is a 49er team that's out there with no Trent Williams and an offensive line that probably needed some reinforcements and didn't get him for the most part in the draft or free agency. So what do you expect? What is your biggest concern of the 49ers offensively? Why don't we start there?
Offensively?
Yeah.
I've been saying it since 2021. Like, it's the offensive line. It is the offensive line.
Is there an individual there, Chase?
I just think since 2021, Larry, from left tackle to right tackle, it has not been good enough on a consistent basis against the most elite teams in the biggest of games when it's high-level talent against high-level talent. It let them down in the NFC Championship game in 2021 against the Rams. Aaron Donald was able to win that game by himself by getting to Jimmy G, who just tossed it up to Jermichael Hasty, and that ball got intercepted. End of the NFC Championship game. You should have won that game, right? The following year, 2022, NFC Championship game against the Philadelphia Eagles. They kicked the Niners' asses up front. That was a Philadelphia team that had 70 sacks that year, 15 more than any team in the NFL. You ignored it then. 2023, it was better. There were improvements, but then you go up against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl and you give up, 17 to 20 pressures, 9 of them unblocked. Now, I know that some of that is scheme. Some of that is Spencer Burford not blocking Chris Jones. That's not the scheme. That's the player decision. That's the level of talent. That's the awareness. That's the serious nature of the offensive line position. And then last year, 2024, that offensive line was not good enough. They weren't good enough in a couple of key areas too. And you know when you can really determine if an offensive line is elite or not? How do you perform on 3rd down, 4th down, and in the red zone? They got handled. They got their asses kicked. Now, let me point back to the fact that part of this is a Kyle Shanahan protection issue. Part of it, though, is personnel. And the personnel hasn't been good enough. Ben Barch at left guard, Colton McKivitz at right tackle, Jake Brendel at center. I'll give McKivitz credit for being in better shape, running the hills of San Francisco, wanting to be a Pro Bowler. That's awesome. Did he get better from 2023 to 2024? Undoubtedly. So much better. Can he continue to get better? For sure. But he is still not an elite tackle and not even in that upper tier of tackles. He's probably a middle of the road type of right tackle. That's not good enough for me, in my opinion. You know, Aaron Banks at left guard was good and bad. Jake Brendel hasn't been strong enough, especially with his anchor against some of the top defensive tackles often enough. And so it's the offensive line, because when you go up against teams like the Denver Broncos, if the Niners offensive line right now were to go up against the Philadelphia Eagles, the Minnesota Vikings, we've seen how that's played out against good defensive coordinators like Jim Schwartz, Cleveland Browns, against the Kansas City Chiefs with Steve Spagnuolo. What do those teams all have in common? Yes, great coaching on the defensive side of the ball, really great DCs, but their defensive lines are better than the Niners offensive line. And if San Francisco just addressed and emphasized this position more high draft capital, a little bit more financial capital, and prioritize getting players in the first 3 rounds at very crucial and important offensive line spots, combined with the play calling and the mind of Kyle Shanahan, combined with the talent on this offense. Imagine how much better this team could be. But it's almost like organizationally, Shanahan, a former receiver, John Lynch, a safety, they just don't see the importance in the offensive line. And they're okay with it being good enough and fine. I want it to be great, and it's capable of being great. Look at what the Eagles can do, the class of the NFL, with that offensive line. And Larry, you and I have talked about this. What did they do after having the best 5 starters along the offensive line, probably left to right in the NFL? They drafted 3 offensive linemen in the 6th round, and they drafted a UDFA who you and I liked in Holland Pierce. They didn't need to address the offensive line, but they did so anyway because they believe that you win and lose games in the trenches. I have that philosophy as well when I look at the game of football. And when the Niners get their asses kicked time and time again against these great teams in the trenches, yes, I do bring it back to the offensive line mostly, and Kyle Shanahan needing to adapt and evolve with allowing these offensive linemen to change the protections and giving Brock Purdy more of that leeway. But yeah, biggest concern, offensive line for all those reasons. As you can tell, I get fired up about it.
Well, you know, I'll tell you, I think the offensive line's an issue. I just watching Denver, you know, I'll be interested to see how Denver pares their roster down, because they got a backup tackle named Pauszewski, who I think could start for the Niners. They also have a backup, you know, they got a bunch of backups. I mean, they got Frank Crum from Wyoming, Marquise Cox from Kentucky. I think these are good offensive linemen. And they're deep on Denver's, you know, depth chart buried. So I guess my problem with the 49ers offensive line is that I don't really believe they're playing their best players. Like, I think Matt Hennessy is a better option for the Niners than Jake Brendel. Brendel's 290, underpowered. Every time he goes up against the DJ Readers of the world, they hand him his lunch.
Jalen Carter would own him.
Yeah, I mean, all the big-bodied guys own him. He's just not strong enough. And then you've got Hennessy, who's like closer to 315, sitting right there. I think Hennessy's better than Brendel. And I'm not even convinced that Nugent isn't better than Brendel. Nugent's had some very good one-on-one snaps, and I kind of like what I've seen out of Drew Moss a little bit. So I kind of think that they're not. I mean, Firster loves Brendel. Firster had Brendel in Miami. Brendel, he brought him to San Francisco, and it's a big success story because the Niners were paying Alex Mack too much and Weston Richburg too much. And they, you know, Brendel was the cheap center that Chris found, and Kyle loves that they found this cheap center. But okay, so that was in 2020. It's now 5 years later.
Exactly.
And you know, he's regressed, and he's not very powerful at the point. And I know he's smart. He's probably their smartest offensive lineman and this and that. But I think Hennessy just gives you more pop in the run game. And I think Nugent, has potential as well. And I think they're starting. I don't think they're starting their best at center. They disagree. They say Brendel's better 7 ways to Sunday, right? I also don't think they're starting their best left guard. I like Ben Bartch. He's a good guy. He's a tough guy. He's a great guy to talk to. But I kind of think Colby is better than him. And that Colby, Connor Colby, according to Chris Furster, he says, I said, what do you think of Colby as a pass blocker? I thought he was going to say he's a disaster because he's getting destroyed in the one-on-ones. But Chris was like, you know what? He's really good. That's his strength. I said, really? And I said, despite the one-on-ones, he's like, yeah, no, I know. He's losing a lot in the one-on-ones, but in the team drills, when it's 5 guys, he shows that he can pass protect. He's like, we saw that with Dom Pooney last year, and it enabled us to play him because we could play a guy who could pass protect. We see the same thing with Colby. So I think Colby and Pooney could be your guard tandem for the foreseeable future. And I think the Niners' best interior is Pooney at right guard, Hennessy at center, and Colby at left guard. And I think they're going to – I just don't think they're putting their best foot forward with the line that they have right now. I think that would be my biggest complaint. As far as my biggest concern with this offense is probably tackle, because Trent and McKivitz obviously are solid, but Spencer Burford is not fast enough to play tackle, and he's false starting without being called on it at least 3 or 4 times in this camp.
And why he's doing that, Larry?
Because he can't move. He can't get out there.
Exactly. It's not fast enough.
But he's cheating the snap, and there is no refs, and he's not getting called for it. I'm setting the over under on Spencer Burford false starts in the preseason at 2.5, and I'm going over.
Okay.
We'll see. It's just something to watch for. But I don't think they have a third tackle. I mean, I asked Furster, who's your swing tackle? He's like, well, we may not have a swing tackle. And really what he means is we may not have a third tackle, because Burford is a guard, and they're playing him at tackle. And Pleasance, who looked amazing in the OTAs. Chase, if next May I start talking big about a guy in OTAs, I want you to come through the screen and just freaking slap me back and forth and remind me of my rule, which is the OTAs mean jack shit, because Austin Pleasance looked a monster in the OTAs. So impressive that I mentioned it to Furster, and Furster was like, I agree. He looks amazing. And he has not carried it over to camp. He's getting beat like a drum by speed, by power. I don't think he can play. So Burford, I don't think can play. Pleasance, I don't think can play. Isaiah Prince has been decent, but he kind of is a waist bender. And he does have ridiculous long arms. He's looked better than them. The guy I got to ask you about is Dillard. We haven't seen Dillard. Mm-hmm. You cover the Eagles. He was a first-round pick by the Eagles. He left there, went to Green Bay. I thought he was better in Green Bay. I like some of the film I saw of him in Green Bay. He's here. He's hurt. They say he's coming back soon. Is Andre Dillard good enough to be that third tackle, or do the Niners need to go outside the organization? Because I don't think Pleasance or Burford can do it.
You know what this reminds me of, and I'll talk Dillard for sure because I know the player pretty well. But why didn't they just give $5 to $8 million to DJ Humphries? Like, you have $45.5 million in cap space, and Pleasance isn't good enough. Burford isn't an NFL offensive tackle. I know he played a little bit of that at UTSA, but if he's false starting, he doesn't believe in himself that he's quick enough.
Right.
So that's really concerning. And if you're trying to time the snap, you see Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata do it all the time, but that is so synchronized, and they just have that innate feel for the game. I don't think Burford has it. So you look at a player like DJ Humphries. I know primarily he played left tackle, but that's fine. Trent Williams misses a lot of time. And if you need him to play right tackle, he did so, I believe, in his rookie year or a year or two. There's no way he wouldn't have signed officially, because his agency tweeted out that he was signing with the Niners. If the Niners gave him $5 to $8 million, I mean, I would have invested in a backup offensive tackle who's been a Pro Bowler and a team captain and been in the league for a long time, and at one point was one of the top tackles in the game, for $5 to $8 million, just strictly alone as an insurance policy.
Why pay Juszczyk? Why?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, seriously, I mean, you couldn't find a young fullback to throw in there and save that money and spend it on your offensive
You don't
line?
need to pay $5 million to a fullback in today's NFL. You just don't. The Eagles are introducing one again. And he's a UDFA who made the team a couple years ago as a linebacker and special teamer, and they're paying him what, $300,000? That's it. $300,000 compared to $5 million.
Are the Eagles, who have an exceptional offensive line, right? Maybe the best, right? Left to right, Jordan Mailata, Landon Dickerson, Cam Jurgens, Tyler Steen, Lane Johnson. I don't even know if Steen's the best right guard they have.
He had a great block last night to spring a 38-yard run for Will Shipley.
So that's their starting five. I mean, Mailata's an absolute future Hall of Famer. I think he's awesome. Dickerson's tough as heck. Lane Johnson's going to Canton. So, I mean, obviously they had the great center Kelsey for years, but they replaced him with Cam Jurgens, who was a first-round draft choice. Or second-round draft.
Second round. Out of
okay, so they also have Kenyon Green, who they traded for from Houston. Drew Kendall, whose dad played in the NFL.
They started last night. He's their second-string center already.
Yeah, and he's
as a sixth-round
fifth or sixth-round pick.
Yeah.
And then you got Cam Williams, who was their sixth-round pick out of Texas. So they've got a number of interesting.
They drafted Miles Hinton. They signed Holland Pierce.
They have Trevor Keegan, who used to be the captain of the Michigan Wolverines. They also got Miles Hinton.
Larry,
and Holland
they
Pierce.
Signed, just for the fuck of it, they signed Kendall Lamb and
Matt Pryor, right?
And Matt Pryor, and they have dozens of games of experience starting in the NFL. And they might not make the team. So when I talk about emphasizing the offensive line, this is what I'm talking about. Because if any of the 5 starters on the Niners offensive line goes down, they could be screwed.
Yeah.
You can't scheme your way around that.
If 2 go down, they may want to just take out their starting quarterback and not play him.
Yes.
It's like, so, but my question, I guess, is at the cut down, who do you think is the best tackle that the Eagles will cut? Will Pierce get cut? Will Hinton get cut? Well, should the Niners shop the Eagles' cuts for their tackle? Because I don't like Burford or Pleasance anymore.
Yes. And if they come to you on waivers, and it could be a collection of players, it could be veterans like Kendall Lamb and Matt Pryor, realistically. It could be 2 of the 6th-round picks, Cam Williams or Miles Hinton. And it could be Holland Pierce, a UDFA out of Rutgers. All of those players right now are better than the Niners' other options at second and third string. And so, yes, poach those players. And it's also telling, if the Eagles like an offensive lineman with the best offensive line coach in the NFL, follow that intellect, follow that strategy, follow that scouting acumen, and target those guys. As far as Andre Dillard, I know I didn't answer that question, but again, I get fired up about the offensive line because it just holds this team back. Dillard, former first-round pick, played under Mike Leach at Washington State, and it was kind of a surprise that the Eagles drafted him then, but they were looking for a replacement in the future for guys like Lane Johnson, who was getting a little bit older, and at that time, he had these chronic ankle issues that he even said almost caused him to retire. And so the Eagles take Andre Dillard in the first round, and he had played only left tackle at Washington State. Eagles tried to move him to right tackle. He couldn't do it. And he said, when asked about it, have you ever tried to write with your opposite hand? That's what it's like to try to play right tackle when I'm a left tackle. And so there was that thought from him. He had a bad attitude. He was very emotional. He got into some training camp fights. Defenders ruffled his feathers, lost his confidence, and looked to be on his way to being a bona fide bust as a first-round pick. Then he regains that confidence because the Eagles coach him up. Again, Jeff Stoutland, fantastic offensive line coach. And when they had injuries at left tackle, he filled in and played very, very well, to the point where you're like, okay, he's really starting to get it together. Then he was going to go into the year as the starter at left tackle. He tore his biceps, and that really derailed his development a little bit. Comes off of that, played well, enough for the Titans to say, hey, former first-round pick, showed some upside, he improved, we'll give him really good money. And they paid Andre Dillard. He was so bad, he lasted 1 year out of that contract. Last year went to Green Bay as a backup. And so there have been small moments of good play from Andre Dillard. moments where you say, you can see why the Eagles drafted him in the first round. But that's probably been about 25 to 35% of overall what he's done as a football player. Can the Niners maximize him? Hey, it is totally possible, because the Eagles did there for a moment, and then he went to a bad organization and it didn't work out for him. So that's kind of the skinny on Andre Dillard. My level of confidence that he's going to step in and be a legitimate backup left tackle, it's not that high, but I will give him credit and say it is possible for him to be better than Spencer Burford and or Austin Pleasance.
One last one on the Eagles. One of my favorite players that went to the Eagles I saw last night is Shunderick Powell.
Yeah.
And he scored a touchdown. He had 6 carries for 32 yards. He averaged 5.3 a carry, and he scored a touchdown. He had a 19-yard run. Is he going to make their team?
I think they only carry 3 running backs, because I think they go extra tight end. They've gone 2 tight ends previously.
So it's going to be what?
And so I think they go
Dylan
more tight ends, and
Shipley?
it'll be, Dylan, Shipley, Saquon.
That's it.
And then I think so, because I think they go extra tight end, and instead of 2, they honestly might go 4. They have Harrison Bryant, Kylan Granson, who are good players, and they'll get picked up by another team and sign a better deal. And so I think that causes them to cut a running back. I also think this Darius Cooper kid is going to make the team, forcing them to go with a fewer amount of running backs. And so he's good, though. I mean, he's 5'8", he's 180, but he had this jump cut for a touchdown where he had explosive lateral quickness to kind of juke a defender and was able to trot it in. It was one of those plays, and he had a couple of nice carries where it felt as though the Eagles at the end of the game said, we don't want to give you too much tape, because we don't want people to see this to claim you if we cut you. So we're going to hide you a little bit and not let people see what you're capable of, because then they put in Keelan Robinson. So Powell's a good player. He's a good player. I think he has NFL upside.
Yeah, I had him on my YouTube channel before the draft, and he's just a great kid. Central Arkansas, explosive as hell. I mean, this guy's really explosive, and
he's like a thinner Darren Sproles. Like Darren Sproles was
right.
really thick. Powell is like that height and that height, and has like a stature like that, but he's a little bit thinner, and I'd say more lateral quickness and explosiveness, short area burst.
Body type, he reminds me a little bit of the Steelers receiver from years ago. Remember Mike Wallace? Remember they had
yes.
He's kind of like a Mike Wallace. He's explosive and
fast.
You know
what? A good comp for him?
Thighs.
Deion Lewis.
Okay, yeah.
Remember Deion Lewis out of, I believe, Pitt?
They went to the Ravens.
He played for the Patriots. So he's with the Eagles. He played for the Patriots, and like was a pretty important piece to some of those like championship level teams. Yeah,
no question.
Smaller back.
All right. How about defensively? Do you have a primary concern about the 49ers on the defensive side of the ball coming out of these practices?
I would say overall depth. I think that they're pretty thin along the defensive line. If I were to narrow it down to one position where I think they're extremely thin on the entire roster, it's cornerback. So if Diamador Lenore, Renardo Green, or Upton Stout got hurt, what have you seen from Trey Brown, Dallas Flowers, and Jacob Robinson? Are they quality depth pieces? Has Darrell Luter Jr. finally turned it around? I need some insight on that one, Larry.
Yeah, I mean, watching that Eagles game again last night, they were talking about, Adoree Jackson and Keely Ringo and those guys. They also have Mac McWilliams, who I really, really like. I don't know if McWilliams is going to make the roster. Yeah. They got a number of guys. They got Ricks, who had a good play.
Williams, I think, is their best backup slot corner, so he's going to make the team.
Yeah, he's going to make the team. But, I mean, the 49ers, to me, I mean, it's interesting. When I was looking at Bleacher Report did a breakdown of what's one final piece that every team could use, and like 8 or 9 teams were adding one more corner. So in a passing league, you definitely can never have enough good corners. I mean, I think the Niners have 3 really good corners: Demo Lenore, Renardo Green, and Upton Stout. Those 3 guys are really, really good. After that, it gets really dicey. Now, Dallas Flowers has got NFL size and speed. He's a kind of a journeyman, but he came over with Gus Bradley. I think he makes the team. He looks pretty damn good. And then Darrell Luter had a concussion yesterday. But he's got length and athleticism. Man, I'd have a hard time cutting him, but he hasn't done a whole lot. The other guys, Trey Brown, I don't think is much. He's a journeyman guy who grabs a lot. Chase Lucas is a special teamer. He almost started a fight yesterday, but he doesn't, it's like what the one guy who doesn't make any plays is going to start a fight.
Yeah.
I mean, Chase Lucas, really? I mean, he might as well have sat in the stands. Lucas isn't going to make the team. Trey Brown is guaranteed $500,000, so I would imagine he is going to make the team.
Yeah.
Fabian Moreau didn't practice yesterday. He's kind of a journeyman guy. My big concern, I guess, on the defense is that they're going to cut Jacob Robinson to give a roster spot to Trey Brown or Saron Neal. I mean, that's my biggest concern. The Niners have done this for the last 2 years. They've cut a young, up-and-coming future starter for a special teamer. And I'll say this, I mean, the overall theme around this Niner camp is we are freaking tired of being crappy on special teams. I get that, but you can't cut every player that has a long-term future from scrimmage for a special teamer in the present and not pay the price on that end. I mean, I don't, if you want to cut Nair for Bergen or whatever, yeah, I get it. You're going for the special teamer over the long range guy. Nair doesn't play special teams, but man, if you cut a good young corner like they did last year with Samuel Womack, and they have this year in Jacob Robinson for Trey Brown because he's a little bit more veteran, I think that's really stupid. I hope they don't do that. That is one of my biggest concerns with the 49ers on the defensive side of the ball, is that in paring the roster down, they're going to wind up cutting guys like Jacob Robinson, Stone Blanton, and Sebastian Valdez to take veterans who aren't nearly as good because of some special team box that they check. And I think that's going to be a mistake.
That would be classic Niners, and it wouldn't surprise me at all. You know why it makes no sense? They've already gone with the youth movement with their draft. Right. I mean, their first, 5 picks were all defense?
Right.
You
so
know
you're going to go with this youth movement, but then you're going to cut all these good young players because some guy might be a little bit more up to speed with Brant Boyer's special teams unit.
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to be a major concern at wide receiver as well. I mean, if they wind up cutting, Jacob Cowing, who's got real potential, for Junior Bergen, I don't know what to say about that. I mean, I think that's short-sighted and not wise.
I agree. And if you're going to go Mykel Williams in the first round, Alfred Collins in the second round, Nick Martin, Upton Stout in the third round, CJ West in the fourth round, why are you not just going youth movement across the board at that point? If you're going to go all in on trying to replenish the roster,
you may have 8 new starters on defense with 5 rookies or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Marquise Siegel drafted in the 5th round. So if you're going to go with all of those young players, and I saw that Siegel is a backup safety as of right now, so good for him, because the Niners usually keep rookies a little bit lower. CJ West was 3rd string on their unofficial depth chart, which is ridiculous.
I know.
But you got all these young players. Keep the young players and let Robert Saleh, who's clearly fired up about some of these young players, develop and maximize these guys. I understand that you need some veterans around just for the sake of experience, right? But if you're just going to go Saron Neal because he's a little bit of a special teamer over a player like Jacob Robinson, who can probably play special teams, but has more upside than Saron Neal at corner, just keep, a player like that. How has Darrell Luter Jr. performed okay? He's a pretty important piece to this depth.
He at times has gotten burned, but at times he looks really good. I asked Gus Bradley about him, and he said, man, he's a lot like, he's got length and he's got, upside, and, he likes him a lot. You can tell that he thinks highly of Darrell Luter. There's no question that they need every and all, suitable corners to, he compared him to Dallas Flowers. He said he's a lot like Flowers in that they're both really long and athletic. He thinks Luter's getting better, but, it's now or never, for Darrell Luter. It's got to happen. And he had a concussion last night, possibly. So I don't know how much that derails him, but yeah, it's now or never. I mean, I'll say this: if Darrell Luter gets cut, he will get picked up somewhere else because there are so many teams in need of a corner, and he will get coached up and he will play in this league, and the 49ers will look bad. Yeah. So I would think really long and hard if I were them before cutting Darrell Luter for Saron Neal. you know, and I can
Totally
see it coming.
agree.
You know, I mean,
Totally agree.
because you're going to look really bad, and eventually, guess what? If you had Samuel Womack here, he'd probably be starting for you.
Yep.
All right, I'm going to share the screen on this one because this one makes me laugh. This is a Niner media person, and I'm not banging on Sterling here, but I kind of am. Here's Sterling Bennett. He says, Jauan Jennings' injury is a major concern, which makes me laugh.
I don't think it's a major concern.
Is his injury a major concern, or is it his holdout that is the concern? What concern do you have? I mean, Lynch said, hey, he's got a calf injury. Shanahan said, go talk to JJ. Of course, they didn't make him available, so nobody could follow that up. You know, go talk to God.
These are the inner workings of how things go in the media sometimes that you and I know about, but the other people might not realize.
Yeah. Just go ask him. Oh, great. Sweet. Well, we'll run over there right now. He can't talk right now. He won't be talking. But they are maintaining that he's hurt. And I get it. They're going to take that road, that approach. There are zero indications visually that he's hurt. He's not there working out. If he is, he's doing it behind closed doors. I'm not saying they're liars, but I don't know if they're being truthful here. Jauan Jennings is not playing, and I don't know if he's holding out, holding in. I just think that they saw what it was going to be, right? At the first day of camp, I remember walking in the first day of camp. It was like, JJ Day, is he gonna hold in? Is he gonna hold out? Is he gonna, And then he showed up, he practiced, and everybody's like, oh, JJ's the greatest guy of all time. He didn't hold out, he didn't hold in, he's gonna stand on business and all this garbage, and he's gonna play. 48 hours later, he checks out with a calf injury, not to be seen from since.
Yep.
What do you believe's going on?
So
what do you think's happening here?
Here's what I've talked about on my show in me trying to figure out how to decipher this and figure out what I think is going on. If Jauan Jennings is holding out, why would he report the training camp, practice well, catch a couple of balls, make a few plays, and then just decide to say, I'm just going to hold in now? That approach wouldn't really make sense to me because, from a leverage standpoint, what are you trying to accomplish in trying to get a new contract with the San Francisco 49ers? And so I actually do think that it is injury. And I think that obviously
Shanahan said it showed up. So what that means is he's saying it's showing up on the MRI that he's got some calf something.
Yeah. And so, look, you think about calf injuries, right? We've been through this. Dre Greenlaw, Christian McCaffrey, and now Jauan Jennings potentially with this calf issue. Calf issues can lead to Achilles issues. If you pop your Achilles, that and patellar tendon, which happened to Rashawn Slater yesterday for the Chargers after he got a bag right before that practice and officially signed that contract. I would say those...
Was it right before the practice?
Yes. He officially signed that deal right before the practice. Yes. And then he tore his patellar tendon. And so if you want to get real nerdy, obviously we know Achilles injuries are horrible, horrific for players. And it's worse than an ACL. An ACL, when you and I were growing up, obviously different generations, but as early as the early 2000s, early 2010s, if you tore your ACL, it was your career might be over. Now it's 8 to 12 months setback and you'll be all right. And sometimes you're a little bit faster after. So the advances of what they've done medically with the ACL has been impressive. Achilles too, for the most part, but still the rehab is very arduous. Quad though, and patellar, your knee connects to your quad muscle. So when you get an ACL surgery, you can walk around maybe a week later and actually put some weight on that leg. Because patellar connects to your quad, you have to destabilize that leg, it atrophies, and you can't do anything there for a while. And so when these injuries happen, it gives you a reminder, hey, for Rashawn Slater, good thing he signed that contract right before that injury happened. For Jauan Jennings, He just saw Dre Greenlaw pop his Achilles, Christian McCaffrey deal with bilateral Achilles tendonitis and then a knee injury. He's feeling something in that calf that he re-injured from a previous injury in the spring. I actually think he's hurt the calf again. He's looking for a new contract. He doesn't want to play around with this. Calves are very tricky, especially for a slender player like him who relies on that muscle to win a lot of routes and be explosive at wide receiver. So I side with him actually having an injury as compared to him holding in. Because why would he report to camp and then practice a few times and then be like, I'm good? It just makes no sense. No players do that.
What if, so my thing is like, what comes of this? If the season starts and he comes back and he plays on his contract, then it's not a hold in or a hold out. It was a calf injury.
Yeah.
But if they redo the deal and he comes back, then screw you and your calf injury report. That's not true.
Yeah.
It was a hold in or a hold out.
Yeah.
I mean, would you agree that how this wraps will provide insight into what it is? I guess the Niners could say, well, no, it's a legitimate calf injury and we legitimately are taking care of him. Yeah, but I mean, if a guy's got a legitimate calf injury and you said, the truth, which is that some of these calves can turn into Achilles, why would you extend him? Especially when you're already kind of leveraged at the wide receiver position, spending too much money there anyway.
The scenario you bring up would dot the question mark of the question that we have. If they redo his contract or they give him an extension, I just think they should. Like, he is worth $11 to $15 million. He has also outplayed what he has been paid. And I think good organizations should reward players who maybe were underpaid and then they give them a pay raise. The Eagles just did it with Saquon Barkley after the year he had. They're like, you're our best player. You're underpaid. We got great value. Let's reward you now. Do the same with Jauan Jennings. And it's not going to cost all that much money. But yes, you're right, Larry. If he signs or gets extended, and then the next day, I'm back. It's like, okay, the calf injury was not a calf injury.
Right. Which is kind of what I'm expecting.
Yeah.
I'm kind of expecting
I'd be happy
that.
with it because I want them to pay him. Like, just get this resolved. You have $45.5 million in cap space. Like, come on. Come on.
Do you see a big dramatic move coming with the 49ers between now and week 1? Or is it just going to be like everybody else? They'll cut their guys. They'll pick up a guy here or there. They'll fill in here or there. Or, there's awful lot out there. Trey Hendrickson's out there. They got a lot of cap room. Terry McLaurin's out there. There's an awful lot of speculation. Tyreek Hill's out there. I was thinking the other day, somebody asked me, how would I want in an ideal world to see the whole wide receiver thing resolved? I said, well, I could do one of two things. I could go with a JJ and Ayuk to the Commanders for McLaurin and Luke McCaffrey. I could be happy with that deal. I think that's a smart deal. I think I could also be happy with some kind of a 3-way deal that netted, the 49ers, Tyreek Hill, the Commanders got McLaurin, and the Dolphins got McLaurin, and the Commanders got, Jennings and Ayuk, something like that. I could deal with something like that. And then now you've got Tyreek Hill, who's an electric, dynamic guy. I'd love to get out from underneath the Ayuk contract. Can't. And I don't want to see them sign JJ to any big money deal because I just don't think he's worth it. I'd be in favor of either one of those deals. I'd be in favor of a deal that netted them Hendrickson. Do you see? I mean, it's hard to know what mindset the Niners are in. They're, on one hand, they're young and rebuilding and should steer clear of all those moves.
Yeah.
On another hand, you know what? You get the feeling like after a 6-win year last year that if they followed it up with another 6-win year, Jed might, say, hey, that's a wrap. So I don't know. I mean, how much pressure is there on the Niners? I know outwardly, and a lot of the people that cover the team are going to be like, there's no pressure. There's no this. But we already saw Jed kind of get nervous about the purse strings. They already didn't spend any money in the undrafted market. They're already they're not like, hey, publicly, they're like, we love Kyle. We love John. But I think privately, there's a lot of, I don't know. I'm not really sure. What kind of pressure is there on the regime and on the team to win this year? And do you think it's reflected in some major transaction between now and week 1?
Well, you had a question too earlier, right before that. will the Niners make a big move?
Right.
I don't think they're going to make a big move because it hasn't fit their MO this entire offseason. They've let a lot of players go. They've eaten a lot of dead money. They've gotten younger. They have said that we need to develop some of these young players. These young players are practicing in roles where they figure to be immediate impact players because the Niners need to hit on this draft class badly on top of what they did in 2024. And so that's been their MO. That's been their plan. That's been their path, has been, let's get younger. Let's replenish the cupboard as far as talent goes. Let's reset the salary cap just a bit. Let's pay our pillars, Purdy, Kittle, Warner. They can still be crucial players on our team. We still have a lot of other existing talent, and we'll still have a really good chance. I think that's what the Niners are going to do. See what this current roster can do and not make a big move, because a big move just wouldn't fit anything that they have done since they had that 6-11 season and what their plan has been up to this point. And I do believe that a team's actions are very important. As far as pressure on Shanahan and Lynch, because the Niners have decided to reset, not fully rebuild, and go with this youth movement, I still think if they had a 7-win season, they'd be back. A 6-11 season, that'd be tough to stomach. But Shanahan and Lynch could say, look, we wanted to bring back some of these veterans and have a veteran-laden team, but our approach was to get younger. I think it would have to be a disaster, like a 2-win season, and Brock Purdy plays awful, and all these players stink for Shanahan and Lynch to get fired. And what's telling to me is, like, the odds makers, Larry, still love the Niners. They're favorites to win the NFC West.
Yeah.
They have the 6th highest odds, I think, to win the Super Bowl. And they're one of the top contenders in the NFC according to the betting odds. And so this easy schedule, no rest disadvantage, one of the better overall coaching staffs in the NFL, still a lot of high-level players. I still think they win you double-digit games. But if injuries do occur, that is the thing that could derail this team. And that can't be controlled, I think, by Shanahan and Lynch to the pressure question. And if they're feeling it, will they get canned after this year? So those are kind of my, like, overall thoughts on it.
A lot of good stuff there.
Yeah.
One last one here. Well, let's hit a couple supers and then we'll get out. I got
yeah.
one last question for you. Hater Debate Sports Talk says, love you later, Chase Senior. I think he love you, Larry, and Chase Senior, and both of you, all shows. I'd love to interview you guys on the Hate or Debate podcast. Bang bang, go Niner gang. Hey man, just get a hold of me. Usually DM me on social media. Probably the best way. And you know, man, I've got a crazy busy schedule during the season, but I squeeze in, heck, I did a podcast the other day with 4 jerks from Seattle, that Kev said, he's like, Dad, why'd you do that freaking podcast? I said, what do you mean? He's like, it has like 7 views. I'm like, all right, well, I don't know. You know,
you're being a nice guy. Gracious.
These guys were acting like they were the bomb too. I mean, it was like, yeah, welcome. They didn't even talk to me when they brought me in. It was like they waited. I had to wait for like they finished their discussion for 5 minutes.
Brutal.
And I'm like, really? 7 followers or whatever? But whatever. We'll do it. I went on with a 16-year-old from Ohio a year ago. I'll go on with you. Carlos Niners 94. Chase and Larry, do you see a winning season this year for the Niners? What do you think?
I kind of just answered that. Yeah, I think they're capable of having a winning season. The one thing that could derail that, Carlos, and thanks for all these messages and super chats, I think it's injuries, because I just think they have depth issues kind of all across the board.
MSQ, Burford is a poor man's Lane Johnson, LOL.
Can't put him in the same sentence.
A poor man's Lane Johnson, or
I would take
Johnson?
A poor man's Lane Johnson. That'd be great.
Seriously. I mean, how poor are we talking?
Yeah.
MSQ, why didn't we just re-sign Jalen Moore at
$15 million a year?
Yeah, no. Kansas City, good luck. They're already playing him at guard. I'm sure they really love the fact they gave him $15 million a year.
Josh Simmons is the Ohio State pick.
The question is, why did the Niners not take Josh Simmons at 11 instead of Mikael Williams? That might be the question that we're talking about. If Kansas City, if he goes and becomes a Hall of Famer on that Chief line. Yeah. All right, here we go. Last question. Saturday night, preseason game number 1. Monday morning, everybody, or Sunday morning, I guess, in this situation, but mostly Monday morning when everybody gets back together and all the media hype is out there. Who will we be talking about on Monday after Niners Broncos Saturday night? Who give me 2 or 3 names that we are going to be talking about on Monday.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty bummed that we're not going to see Michael Williams because of that overextended knee from the Thursday practice session against the Broncos, nor are we going to see Jauan Jennings because of a broken finger. He needs surgery on that, and so he's going to be out for a little while with that injury. Those were 2 players I was really looking forward to watching. Elsewhere, though, what's the storyline going to be on Monday? I think it's the Niners got Mac Jones, a high-level backup, for like, what, $4 million per year? And can they resurrect and maximize Mac Jones to the level that they have maximized these other quarterbacks under Kyle Shanahan, CJ Beathard, Nick Mullins, Jimmy Garoppolo, Brock Purdy, and now Mac Jones? Can he get him back on track like a Sam Darnold, who credits Kyle and being around Purdy for why he was able to have a breakout year with the Vikings last year, come out of nowhere and be an MVP candidate and then get a bag from the Seattle Seahawks? I think that's one of the stories that we're talking. Also, man, CJ West, those violent hands and that fast get off, we saw it on display against the Denver Broncos. Nick Martin, he can run a little bit. All right.
Yeah.
He's got some ability at that linebacker spot, and he can sniff out plays for some TFLs. Oh, how about Upton Stout, who might come in year 1 and be one of the best nickel slot corners in the NFL? Mark down my words here on this Friday, August 8th. Love the selection. Really like the player, love the mentality, love how he plays and approaches the game. The fact that Kyle Shanahan, who never compliments rookies much, has said, this guy, he's legit. Robert Saleh, oh boy, there's something here. Fred Warner, he has it. I think that's another player who's really going to pop and show he can be a legitimate player for this football team. Jordan Watkins, 4.3 speed, tracks it very well. Only wide receiver in college football last year to have 5 catches of 60-plus yards. The Niners may have gotten a nice wideout in the 4th round. Alfred Collins, slow to start training camp, but you see 6'5", 330 with that big wingspan on display. He can move bodies in the interior. Those are kind of the storylines that I'm hoping to hear, and I think we will hear on Monday/Sunday morning after this game, because I know you and I are going to be talking about it for the rest of the weekend.
Yeah, no question. Okay, I'm going to go. I like those. Those are good ones. I'm going to go with Corey Kiner. Ooh, I just think it's the Corey Kiner show.
Love it.
I love Corey Kiner. I think he had, sometimes you see something in camp and everybody sees it. And it's like, it's not an original thought because everybody saw it and everybody's talking about it.
Yeah.
But sometimes you see something that nobody saw and nobody's talking about it except for you because you saw something they didn't see. I saw Corey Kiner in a drill the other day have a jump cut where he had to be 3.5 feet laterally just to avoid a defender. This
one
guy's
of those
got
moments.
Yeah, I mean, this guy's got explosive jump cut ability, and I love the contact balance. It is crazy. He's got so good. This guy's one of the best contact balance runners I've seen. You can't hit him and knock him down. He just doesn't go down. He's just got great twist and turn and balance. It's unbelievable. So we're going to be talking about Corey Kiner and him running the rock. We're going to be talking because there's a lot of garbage time in a first preseason game. So a lot of the backups get a lot of run.
Yep.
We're going to be talking about Stone Blanton.
Okay.
Because Stone Blanton, Johnny Holland said it to me the other day. He said, I chart everything every day. We chart all the tackles. We chart all the snaps. He's like, do you know that Stone Blanton leads my room in ball production with the fewest number of reps in practice?
That's awesome.
He has the fewest practice reps of any linebacker.
Wow.
And he has the most ball production of any linebacker.
Wow. Mississippi State UDFA, by the way, pretty smart player, not the best athlete, but relies on those football smarts to make plays. And so for him doing that, that was the scouting report on him coming out of college, and he has special teams ability too.
Yeah. He might be too slow for the NFL. We'll find out. But
could he play middle then?
He definitely, well, that's the other thing. Johnny
middle, right?
Holland said, he's like, I said, what do you think of him? He's like, we are throwing everything at him. He has to digest everything that Fred has to digest, and he doesn't miss a beat. He's like, I tell him something once, he knows it, he remembers it, he commits it to memory. I'll say this. I left my binoculars. I did an interview with Don Pooney in the hallway the other day, and I left my binoculars in the auditorium, and the players were going in there for a meeting after we were done. And I had to run in to get my binoculars. The only player that was there for the meeting was Stone Blanton. He had gotten there early. So, this is the guy. This is what this guy is.
Yeah.
He's a show up early, work all day, lunch pail guy. But I made the prediction. I'll say it again. Stone Blanton will wind up with 10 plus tackles in one of these 3 preseason games. His ball production is off the charts. So I think Corey Kiner, Stone Blanton, and I hate to say it, I'll have to mix in one negative one. Jake Moody misses a kick, and we're talking Jake Moody.
Don't get me started. I went on multiple rants this week about the whole kicker competition and Jake Moody. Just don't think he's good enough. You bring something up about Stone Blanton that kind of triggered just something right now. Like, when people say preseason games don't matter, screw that. That's disrespectful. Preseason games do matter. These guys like Stone Blanton are showing up early to do everything in their power to prove that they just belong, let alone be stars in this league, just to earn a roster spot. And they are fighting for these opportunities, scratching and clawing every single day in a violent sport that is unrelenting physically and mentally. And you want to tell me preseason games don't matter? Coaching staffs, front offices, and organizations make roster decisions and positional battle decisions based upon what happens in these preseason games. We're talking about millions of dollars on the line still. We're talking about high-level 6-figure salaries being on the line. You make it to a practice squad, you're making $300, $400,000 in a year. Like, that's what these guys are playing for. Preseason does matter. So stories like that with Stone Blanton, so eager to prove himself. And then you bring something up too about Corey Kiner. So Corey Kiner is an interesting back who's smaller. He has tiny hands, but he's really stout and physical. And last year ran hard, as you mentioned, great contact balance. These numbers that I dug up are pretty interesting. Missed forced tackles last year among running backs: Ashton Genty, Cam Scadaboo, Corey Kiner. Kiner was tied with Scadaboo. We're talking about high-level backs. He was ahead of Omarion Hampton. Elusive rating: Ashton Genty, Corey Kiner, Bashul Tutin. He also got drafted. PFF rush grade: Omarion Hampton, Devin Neal, RJ Harvey, Corey Kiner, number 8. Yards after contact per attempt: Omarion Hampton, DJ Giddens, Corey Kiner, number 6. These are numbers where Kiner is very good and impressive among running backs who were drafted in the first 4 or 5 rounds, including a running back like Genty, who is a top 10 overall pick. And so he does have really good ability. And sometimes when you are low to the ground, good center of gravity, you have good contact balance, and you can pick up yards after contact, you can make a living in this league, because that's really hard to stop. You could do everything perfect, but that running back keeps churning. And so I can't wait to watch him play. And what an opportunity he has, because McCaffrey's not playing, Isaac Rendo's hurt, Jordan James is hurt, and so he's going to get a lot of carries on Saturday night.
I'm going to say something that you guys are going to rip me for, but that's okay. I'm a very confident man, as you can tell. How do you put your face on camera when you have a face that looks like this? I mean, I'm a very confident man.
Voice for radio, or face for radio.
You have a face for radio. I've got a sunburn face for radio now.
You're a kid, man. You're grinding.
He reminds me. I know this is going to be this. You're going to be sick by this. He reminds me of a poor man. I said poor man. He reminds me of Emmitt Smith.
Okay.
Why
Emmitt wasn't that big?
Why does he remind me of Emmitt Smith?
Contact.
First of all, Emmitt Smith, 5'9", 210. Corey Kiner, 5'9", 210. Emmitt Smith, great player in high school, great player at Florida, great player with the Cowboys. Basically, always just a great player. Corey Kiner,
LSU.
same thing. He was Mr. Football in the state of Ohio his senior year in high school. 5-star recruit, went to LSU. He was good there. Transferred to Cincinnati, became one of their all-time leading rushers in the history of their program. He's done nothing but produce. He had Emmitt Smith's 40 time. varying reports. Some people say 4.52, 4.53. Other people have him at 4.57, 4.58. But he's a 4.5 runner, mid 4.5s. Corey Kiner, 4.57. Not a home run hitter.
Yeah.
Emmitt Smith, tremendous heart. It was all about heart with Emmitt. Emmitt was the heart of the Dallas Cowboy dynasty of the 1990s. Corey Kiner runs with tremendous heart. He has unbelievable heart. And the number one thing is you could not hit Emmitt Smith. He was, as far as contact balance, he would not go down. He ran through arm tackles. He had unbelievable power for a small back. Corey Kiner has unbelievable power for a short back. And the number one thing is Emmitt was just an absolute warrior who showed up for the victory. And this guy's the same deal. This guy has not missed a single practice. Every year, the Niners take a running back early and a running back late. Every year, the running back early is not as good as the running back late.
Yep.
This is another example of
Trey
that.
Sermon, Ty Davis Price. Hello.
Jordan Mason,
Elijah Mitchell, Jordan Mason. How you doing?
Joe Williams early, Jordan Mason late, Elijah Williams late, Jeff Wilson late, Raheem Mostert late. Corey Kiner is a hell of a player. I can't wait to see him. I think I see a poor man's Emmitt Smith. Granted, it's a poor man, but very similar traits. It's not like Emmitt was way bigger, faster, stronger. No. So I realize that's ridiculous because Emmitt has 18,000 yards and Emmitt's Emmitt. But I'm telling you, I'm a big Corey Kiner guy. All right, couple more supers and we're out. MSQ, Krug is biased against JJ, LOL. You don't want to pay him because you think he isn't worth it. You won't give him the benefit of the doubt. Okay, well, say whatever you want. Mr. Shadur Sanders, how do you all think I'll do tonight?
I can't wait to watch Shadur play, man.
Well, I'm glad that Mr. Shadur Sanders spelled his first name correctly this time.
Yeah.
But I think Shadur sucks. I don't think Shadur is going to be very good. I personally, I think he is not an NFL quarterback as far as I don't think he can make all the throws.
Okay.
I think that's going to kind of show itself over time. Los in the house said, two of my favorites. Boys, can we truly take San Francisco seriously as Super Bowl champions to actually beat a monster AFC team with this eight-year just get by offensive line philosophy?
I think that's why they haven't been able to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah,
frankly.
I think Los is hitting on something there. All right, that is going to do it for us. Chase, what do you got cooking the rest of your Friday?
I put a mailbag out a little bit earlier, just taking questions from all of our loyal viewers and subscribers on the 49ers Report. So you see the branding right here. Go on and check out that channel if you like what Krueger and I do every single Friday on this show. Watch party tomorrow night. We're going to do an hour pregame show. We're going to do a postgame show, react to everything, do some winners and losers. And that's all coming up on the show. I cannot wait. I legitimately am just so fired up about this juncture of the season, knowing what the regular season is going to bring too.
I'm going to go hit the gym and throw some weights around. I actually got 5 reps yesterday of 225 and I'm 55.
Are you serious?
I got 5 reps at 225 yesterday.
Dude, that's very impressive.
Seriously, I had not done, and no spot. I had no spotter. I got 5 reps at 225. And I told myself about 6 months ago, I said, you know what? I'm tired of just not getting any gains in the gym. I'm going to get serious. And I got serious. And, I wanted to lift because my kid's playing high school football. So I wanted to lift with him.
Yeah.
So get him stronger. And in the process, I've turned myself into a beast. So
there are very few people in this population who can bench 225. Like I'm training for High Rocks in November, which is like a very, it's like a CrossFit type of competition. I'm in good shape, put on the gains, but like I can't bench 225. No way.
I mean, Kev, I bring Kev with me. Kev's not hitting 225, but I lifted a lot. I lifted a lot in college. So I've been lifting for 25, 30 years, but I've just been doing it lighter. But anyway, I'm back in the gym, more lifting.
Let's go, Krug.
I'm going to see if my high water mark was 2 reps of 275. Okay. I did 2 plates and a quarter, 275 in college 2 times. I don't think I'm going to get there. I don't even think I'm going to try to get there because I don't want to blow out my elbows or anything. But
you're going to be pushing 3 Benji Franks over here? 3 Benjamin Franklin's 300 pounds. Let's go.
How about this, dude? the other day at the gym, it was 10 o'clock. I go to the gym. I'm like, I'm going to do a late night workout. I go in there. There's this guy on the next bench. He's got 3 plates. And I'm like, whoa, dude, 305. And I said to him, I just looked at him and I go, hey, man, 305. I go, what, are you playing the NFL? And he looks at me and he goes, Krug, I love the show.
No way.
I was so floored. I'm like, are you kidding me?
That's
and he's like, dude, I checked you out on YouTube. And then the guy told me he used to play basketball for UC Davis. But dude was yoked. I was like,
cool,
dude,
man.
how do you throw 305? I mean,
I take health and fitness very seriously, man. So I'm legitimately fired up for you that you're benching that much.
Dude, 225. I should film it. Should I film it and put it out there? I will film it.
You put that on an X and people are going to be like, Krug, are you for real?
Back away.
Go. Yeah.
Seriously, I'll do that today.
George Kittle might rip the media's sneakers, but if he sees you pushing 225 on the bench, multiple reps, he's going to say, Krug, I see you out there, son. I see you.
Yeah, seriously, I may have to do that. I may do that later today. My kid's going to probably be pissed if I tell him not to record me. But that's going to do it for me tonight. Check me out tonight at 6 o'clock, Niners Nightly on the YouTube channel. Chase Sr. is going to stop by as our guest tonight. It's going to be great. Have a great night. We're back tomorrow with John Chapman at 9. Tomorrow we'll be at the stadium, pre-game on KMBR, post-game on KMBR, post-game on YouTube. A lot of Niner content coming. Have a great weekend. For Chase, I'm Larry. Have a great day, everybody. Peace.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared.